Hello. Good afternoon po. Oh, this was it. Sorry. Hello. Good afternoon, Mr. Ron. No, no, no. Okay. Still, I think it's still connecting. Can you hear me now, Mr. Ron? Oh,
Now
okay.
I can hear you.
Oh,
Okay.
okay.
Perfect.
Yeah. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing well, thank you.
All right. All
Yes.
right. Good.
Yeah.
You're in Vancouver, right?
Yes, I am. And you are in
Toronto.
Toronto. Yeah. Okay.
Okay.
Thank you
So,
for granting my request.
yeah, no problem. No
Yeah.
problem. Are you comfortable with speaking in Filipino?
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay. Sige, mas
Kailangan.
maganda kung mag-Tagalog
Oh,
tayo.
sige, sige, okay.
Oh, okay,
Ayan.
sige. I'm gonna start the recording para lang na nagkikwentuhan.
Sige, sige.
Recording in progress.
Okay, so Luisa, that's your full legal name, Luisa Quintero?
Yes, but yung full name ko talaga is Luisa Cecilia Malto Quintero. It's so long. Kaya lang, you can call me Luisa for short.
All
Yeah.
right, Luisa. You are now in Vancouver, right?
Yes.
Okay. How long have you been in Canada?
Well, the first time I came here, I was here in 2001 until 2004. So I was here for 3 years and then I went back because it was only kind of like a temporary status. And then I came back with my son in 2012. So we've been here for more than 9 years. So in total, kind of like 12 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
But before you went here to Canada, anong trabaho mo sa Pilipinas?
I was a teacher actually. I was an English teacher for more than 10 years in private schools. And then when I came to Canada, when you come here, you cannot practice naman right away yung profession mo. So, I did different kinds of jobs. I work in a convenience store and in a gas station and things like that. But during this time, I was able to take my first TESOL certificate, so I was able to tutor students. So I was with kind of like an agency, and it's called Student Services and Marketing. But then it's because of my status, which is only temporary. So I went back home in 2004, and for other reasons, I went back. And then when I went back, instead of going back to teaching in private schools, I taught in different language schools, especially around Ortigas area, with mostly Korean students, some Japanese, and some other international students. And then when I already applied for a permanent resident visa for Canada, it took many years before I got approved. But when I came back now with my son here, and I thought the reason why I actually asked you to yes to have this interview, Mr. Ron, it's because um, since I started, for example, this profession, I work in different language schools. Like I work full time and I work part time. I work on call, for example, in different language schools in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver. I only met one Filipino teacher. And every time I attend conferences or conventions, for example, for ESL teachers like me, wala akong nakikita. So minsan ko nang may nakatrabaho ako na Filipino teacher, and she was a professor in English. So sinasabi ko, bakit, there is always a demand for this job. Kaya lang bakit mukhang isa, dalawa lang ang nasa industry na to. Samantalang ang dami din namang mga teachers who have the potential and who are equally qualified to do this job. So, kaya naisipan ko na rin na sabi ko, I think, although you know what, I also train teachers back home. And many of my graduates are working abroad as well. So they keep asking me, teacher, Miss Louisa, how can we go there to be like you? So sometimes sinasagot ko na nga isa-isa. So this is already an opportunity for them to know more about how to become an ESL teacher in Canada, because there's always, a demand for this job.
Okay, so tell me about what is ESL.
Okay, ESL. Actually, this is like it's English as a second language, but there are actually like acronyms that everybody should know when they, for example, they are really interested in doing this job. I know there are even in Vancouver right now, because I met some, teachers from back home, kaya lang math or science. Actually, you can do this job as long as you have a bachelor's degree. And if you take the TESOL, for example, which is a teaching certification course, and it should be recognized by TESL Canada Federation. You cannot just take this course anywhere, for example. Kailangan recognize siya ng TESL Canada Federation. So, when we say ESL, it's English as a second language. Well, there is an acronym, which is TESOL, and this is Teaching English as a Second Language to speakers of other languages. So again, it's teaching English to speakers of other languages. That's the main kind of like field when you want to teach English, for example. And under this, there are other fields as well, like TESL and TFL, teaching English as a second language or teaching English as a foreign language. Pero yung pinaka importante dito is like you take the TESOL, which is teaching English to speakers of other languages. And that's what I took. The first certificate that I took, hindi siya recognized. That's why when I was applying for this job the first time, hindi ako na-hire because it was not recognized by this federation. So those who are interested, they have to take this certification in a recognized institution, and they can always check the website of TESL Canada. Okay, and then when you are already certified, let's say you completed 120 hours, meaning 100 hours of lectures, and then 10 hours of practicum and 10 hours of observation. So that's a total of 120. Ngayon, pag nakompleto mo na yun, Mr. Ron, then you apply for membership in this federation. And then when you become a member, a certified member, then you can easily apply. That makes you very marketable. So you can easily apply because the schools, language schools, usually only hire someone who is a certified member of this federation. Kasi kung hindi, ma-assess din sila ng Languages Canada. These language schools are members of Languages Canada, and they are assessed or evaluated every year. Ngayon, kung merong isang teacher na hindi certified member ng federation, hindi rin nila hinahire, or they actually tell the school that one of your teachers is not a certified member of the federation, so kailangan kumuha ka ng course na TESOL.
Okay, so let me just see if I got this correct.
Mhm.
You have to take the TESOL exam first.
No,
right?
it's a teaching certification course.
It's a teaching it's a course. You have to take
It's a
the course.
course, yes. Yeah.
How long is the course?
Well, actually, depende sa school or depende sa program na kukunin mo. So, they have to make sure that at least it's 120. 20 hours.
Okay.
So 100 hours of lectures, 10 hours of observation, and 10 hours of practicum. So if they already have this they have taken this, then they can apply for membership doon sa federation. And then if you're already certified, then you can apply to language schools. Then you
Okay.
can
Do
teach.
you have to be a graduate of an English course or hindi naman?
No, hindi. Although it's always an advantage if you are, let's say, a graduate of Bachelor of Arts major in English, or Bachelor of Science in Education major in English. It's always an advantage. But as long as you have a bachelor's degree, and of course, they have to keep in mind as well that, of course, they have to have this good command of the language, of course, and then kailangan neutral din yung accent, which I know many Filipinos have very neutral accent, and we have this good command of the language. So, napaka in demand na trabaho. Kaya lang bakit, sabi ko parang, napaka, ilan lang yung nasa industry na to. And,
Kailangan ba mayroong background sa teaching?
well, not necessarily. Of course, if you are, let's say, kung meron ka ng mga experience, which I know there are many, many now, for example, like my graduates working in Vietnam, in Thailand, some in Japan, for example, when they come here, advantage na nila yun kasi they already work abroad as ESL teachers or EFL teachers, for example, English as a second language teacher. And then when they take for example, the TESOL certification, teaching certification, then napakadali na para sa kanila na ma-hire, for example.
Okay, can you do that while you're in the Philippines or kailangan nandito ka na sa Canada?
Well, actually, there was this one student, like a former student, who took the course online in a recognized school. Kaya lang, ang disadvantage naman, Mr. Ron, is that when you take it online, hindi masyadong nire-recognize ng mga school. So, maganda sana kung dito na. Because, for example, there are many recognized schools ng federation, for example, ng TESL Canada Federation, and they're offering hybrid, online and in-person classes, for example. So, she took the course online. Okay, actually, nasa Vietnam. Filipino, but teaching in Vietnam. That I'm not really sure, and she's actually planning to come here soon, for example. That I'm not really sure if it will be really recognized because it was taken online outside Canada. So,
Okay, how in demand is this job right now?
well, if you check Indeed or Craigslist, Mr. Ron, napakaraming needs ng because probably 100% of these language schools na nag-survive ng COVID-19, they have reopened, and now internationals are coming in again by probably the hundreds every day. Kasi nga ito yung I think Canada is the most popular destination for international students, more popular than Australia or UK or USA kasi mas madaling pumunta dito compared to other countries like those that I mentioned. So there is always a chance for you to get this job, and the pay is also good. Not really, hindi naman ganun kataasan, but it pays well.
Okay,
Yeah.
what do you think is the barrier why there are very few Filipinos in this industry?
That was my question before. Siguro una hindi nila alam yung mga requirements kung paano. Okay? Kasi sa akin, when I came here the first time, when I was here for 3 years, so of course I was aiming like pwede kaya ako magturo dito and everything like that. So I explored. So nakikita ko yung mga like courses like ESL or TESL or TFL courses, and I said, okay, since I am an English teacher, I might as well take this one. Kaya lang, yung first certificate ko nga, it was not recognized by this federation, so I had to retake. So dalawa na yung certificates ko. One is not recognized, but I can use this abroad anywhere, like anytime. Pero yung dito, if you teach here in Canada, kailangan talaga recognized by this organization.
Okay, this TESOL course, this TESOL certification, it's an actual classroom setting.
Yes, like in my case, I did. Yeah, in my case.
So talagang para kang estudyante.
Yes. Kaya lang, of course, during the pandemic, marami nag-offer ng online.
Yes.
Yeah, and until now, may mga online pa rin kasi nga, for example, there is this one good school in Victoria. Andito yung mga estudyante, for example, they want to take the course. So they're taking it online. Ganon. Kaya lang, ang ano naman talaga minsan, disadvantage, some schools do not recognize online. It's not
Okay,
really
so
that they don't recognize, but parang yung chance mo talaga parang mas konti kumpara doon sa when you take this course in person.
okay, so now you are an English teacher
Mm-hmm.
in what school?
Okay, so right now I'm working in two language schools. One is CNC, it's Cloud9 College in Vancouver, downtown Vancouver, and I'm also on call ng CCEL or Canadian College of English Language. So ganun
Okay, so
yun, Mr. Ron, you can work full-time in one school and then you can work part-time in another school because usually when you teach full-time, you get 27 to 30 hours. Kasi parang 9 to 3:30, 9 to 4, something like that. And then afterwards, you can still work part-time,
okay, so
which,
there's a shortage, there's a lack of availability of teachers in ESL, and there's a very high demand right now.
yes, kasi probably you're aware. Even if, for example, in Toronto, you see a lot of international students, right? And most of these are students of English first before, they can do some like yung pathway, academic pathway, or yung mga co-op programs, for example, and eventually they apply for permanent, uh, for immigration, I should say, or permanent resident visa application, for example. So there is always a demand, actually.
Okay, so for those who are in the Philippines and
Mm.
interested in becoming an English teacher here,
Mm.
they have to go here and take that TESOL certification course.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And schools from here do not hire from outside Canada. So kailangan nandito sila. And then they have to take the course here. So ang minsan pag may namimit ako na Filipino international students, for example, at may bachelor's degree na, and especially if let's say they have teaching experience or teaching background, I usually advise them take TESOL and then you can teach English here, especially if you have the passion for teaching, something like that. Kaya lang talagang makikita mo even up to now, like before, before the pandemic, iisa pa lang yung nakita ko. Yeah, I've seen some, like Filipinos working in like admin, for example, like admin staff sila, pero sa teaching wala.
Okay, and once you have that TESOL
Certification,
certification,
yeah.
you can now apply to English schools. Tama?
No. Okay, here, Mr. Aaron, you have a bachelor's degree, right? And then
Yeah.
you study TESOL, meaning you have to obtain the certification to be able to teach. Yeah. Ngayon naman, pag nag-apply ka na sa isang language school, they will check, are you a certified member of TESL Canada Federation? And then if you are, they will hire you. Kasi kung hindi, ma-evaluate din sila ng Languages Canada. Ng teacher pala nila, hindi naman TESL Canada Federation certified, they will ask you to retake.
Now
The
here's the question. Gaano naman kahirap yung TESOL certification course?
yun ang medyo challenging, Mr. Ron, kasi a lot of reading, a lot of writing, like methodologies, teaching strategies and approaches. Pero you know what? Ngayon ang medyo madali na kasi there are many resources that you can actually get online now. Unlike in 2002 when I took my first TESOL certificate, medyo mahirap talaga because we had to do a lot of reading, a lot of writing, for example. Pero ngayon na, madali-dali naman na kasi nga, there are many information that you can get online now. Pero medyo challenging din talaga. But, if you have the passion for teaching and you pass this, at usually naman talaga, ang mga teachers very supportive. Very
Okay,
supportive.
where they can find this, the TESOL?
Well, actually, if they go to TESL Canada, you can see a list of those schools that are accredited by this federation. So, for example, kung nandiyan ka sa Toronto and then you want to take the course, there are schools that are, members of this federation. And then if you are in Vancouver, the same thing. There are many schools as well. So, kailangan lang talaga yung institution is a member of TESL Canada Federation.
Okay. So now, talk to me about your experience teaching a language that is not your natural language.
Yes, okay, yeah. Siguro yun yung ano ng ibang, even if they have the passion for teaching, but probably they don't have the confidence to do this job because, English teaching and your students are international. Although, may iba-ibang level kasi yan eh. Pag beginners, napakadali. As long as you know the rules of basic grammar, for example, and dali mong ituro. And then there are many books, there are many resources that you can use, for example. But this job for me is very rewarding. Why? It's not because it pays also well, for example, but you are not only teaching your students, but you are also learning a lot from this, you know, people from different cultures and nationalities, for example. You learn a lot from them about their culture, about their lifestyle, about their food, everything. And it becomes very fulfilling for you. Now, since iba-iba yung level ng mga estudyante, for example, and these are, very diverse. The nationalities or cultures are very diverse. It can be a little bit challenging sometimes. Pero pag you already have like 1 or 2 years of experience, madali na. Napakadali na niya.
Okay, halos lahat ba ng estudyante mo talagang very little knowledge of English
Oh,
speaking?
no. When they come to Canada, Mr. Ron, ang level ng karamihan ng mga yan, mga pre-intermediate. Kumbaga talaga may good background of English na. And of course, iba-ibang levels. So for example, in my case, it's probably because of my experience. Usually, nakukuha ko talaga yung mga higher levels na. But in some cases, I also get still students who are at a beginner level. It can be challenging, but when you see your students improve, they already have the skill. For example, nakakaintindi na, you know. When you see them improve, it becomes very rewarding.
Okay, I can feel that probably some of the teachers in the Philippines, no, or even some of our kababayans here in Canada,
Yeah.
it's easy to teach English in the Philippines, but it's probably they feel more difficult to teach it in a country where English is the primary language. So, what can you tell them in terms of that confidence, of that intimidation of teaching English in Canada?
Okay, kaya nga ito, Mr. Ron, to make yourself marketable, for example, you have to have the certification first. And it's good if you have already a teaching background. You have already, let's say, a year or 2 or more of your of teaching experience, for example. When you apply, alam mo, kailangan lang talaga dito, you have to have the good command of the language, which is, tayong mga Pilipino naman, we already have this good command of the language, right? And then, kailangan neutral din yung accent mo para when you get interviewed, okay, well, we can consider this applicant because, she has this good command of the language, for example. And then, when you take this course, the TELASOL certification course, it will help you to learn different methods or approaches. So it depends on the level of your students. If you're teaching beginners, what are the approaches that you need to use? What are the materials? So tutulungan ka talaga ng course na to para maging confident to do this job, whether you have a teaching experience or not.
Okay, that's good to know.
Yes.
Luisa, konting fun facts lang, no?
Mhm.
Anong common English mistake ng mga kababayan natin?
Ay, nako,
Hindi,
miss.
hindi aware na mali pala yun.
Alam mo, Mr. Ron, prepositions. Prepositions. Even yung, we call this 3 little words like on, in, and at. And then tenses. And then subject and verb agreement. Yun yung mga common mistakes na minsan hindi sila yata aware. We learned this before, starting from elementary. Kaya lang, it's probably because we don't really use English at home. Mostly Filipinos don't use English at home. So hindi na pa-practice yung speaking. And that's another thing that probably hold them up, to be more confident in using the language. And minsan they are intimidated as well. So I really want, more Filipinos to do this job because I know there are people out there who are equally qualified. And in fact, sometimes pa nga, in my case, for example, it's because of my experience, probably. Yung mga ibang native speakers, they come to me and ask me questions like, Luisa, why is it that it's like this? So they use the language as their native language, for example. Pero yung theory of the language, pagdating na sa theories, medyo hindi sila confident doon. So sometimes they get also confused. And that's the reason why before the pandemic I still go home and train teachers because I want them to be more qualified when they do this job. So prepositions on, in, and at, very very confusing sa mga maraming Filipinos. Yeah.
Yeah, example lang, Luisa.
Example. Okay. For example, you are at home, let's say with your wife, and then your kids are not home, and then one of your friends came to visit you. Okay, and then your friend said, "Where are the kids?" And then you answered, "They are still in school." Tama ba yon? Sa tingin mo, Mr. Ron, they are still in school? What do you think? There is something wrong with the preposition. It's not in school. Because if you mean where the person is right now, you have to use the word at. They are still at school. Meaning they are not at home yet, but they are still at school. Not in. Maraming Pilipino niyan gumagamit ng in when they mean that. So it should be at school. And then means...
Okay. Paliwanag mo lang sa Tagalog yung difference ng in at saka at.
Okay, so pag ginamit mo yung in, meaning in school, ikaw ay isang mag-aaral pa. For example, are you working right now? Nagtatrabaho ka ba ngayon? Ay, hindi po. I'm still in school. Meaning, I am a student. Okay? Now, pag ginamit mo naman yung at school, ibig sabihin, yung person is in that place right now. At school. Kaya when, for example, somebody came and visit you, for example, and then ask, where are the kids? Oh, they are still at school. This is the place where they are right now. So usually, ginagamit natin yung at to mean like, a location or a position. And then yung in naman, in this case, in school, meaning I am a student. Now, meron pang isang gamit ng in school. If you mean the building itself, for example, there are 800 students in that school. So meaning the building itself. So yun yung pagkakaiba na maraming Pilipino hindi nila alam yan. Another one, like when it comes to the different means of transportation. Okay? So, for example, somebody phoned you at nasa train ka ngayon, and then somebody phoned you and then said, nasaan ka? Maraming magsasabi niyan, I'm in the train or I'm in the bus. Because nasa loob ka nga naman, right? So you use in, because usually we use the preposition in to mean that someone or something is inside or within, right? But when it comes to the different modes of transportation, we use on, okay, with airplane, bus, train, boat, ferry, ship, kasi mas malalaki sila and we can stand. We have more space to move around or to walk around. For example, where are you right now? I'm on the train. I'm on the bus. I'm on the plane right now. So we use on with this different means of transportation. Now, if we use a smaller means of transportation like a car, a taxi, or a cab, where you only squeeze in, so it's smaller, you have limited movements, we use in. Okay, so you get on the train, you get on the bus, you get off the train or on the bus. But when it comes to smaller means of transportation, you use in. I'm in the car, I am in the cab, I'm, in my SUV, something like that. And then pag naman yung movement, yung pagsakay mo, I'm getting into my car. Into. And then paglabas mo naman, get out of the car. So eto yung mga parang hindi ko natatandaan na napag-aralan talaga natin. I don't know if you remember. Do you remember?
Not anymore, actually.
Yeah, I don't remember if this were, taught to us, like the use of, the use of prepositions when it comes to the different means of transportation. Yeah, yung mga little words na minsan mali yung pagkakagamit. Yeah.
That's interesting.
Yes.
I have this idea that I should talk to you again about that.
Yes. You know what? If you can do this actually, if you're working, for example, with Omni right now,
Yeah.
and if you have the passion for teaching, pwede mong gawin tong part-time or full-time, Mr. Ron. Kasi there is always a demand. If you check Indeed, for example, makikita mo napakarami. Like, I don't know Indeed Toronto, but Indeed Vancouver, there's always a demand. Mamimili ka na lang kung ano doon ang pinakamataas ang rate, for example. Ngayon, syempre, to be more marketable, yeah, you have to upgrade yourself, and then you have to how do you call this one, upgrade yourself, and then kailangan may experience ka na rin para yeah, kahit mag-start ka sa mga maliliit na language school like tutorial, for example, and I did this as well as a part-time, hindi ka mawawalan ng trabaho if this is your profession, for example. And I'm just wondering why, bakit iisa pa lang, bukod tanging isa na teacher pa lang ang namit ko, samantalang may demand, and then it's not so difficult naman to do this job, for example.
Luisa, karamihan ng mga kasama mong teachers ay they're Canadians.
Yes, of course, Canadians, and there are some that are Australians, British, for example, Americans, and eto pa nga, I have also some co-teachers like from India and Pakistan, Brazilian. I experienced having a coworker from Brazil. Yun, Brazil, different nationalities, but mostly native speakers. Yeah.
How do you feel? How do you feel that you're a Filipino, but you are teaching this language that is not really native to
Mm-hmm.
you?
Well, you know what? Siguro yung experience ko na, Mr. Ron, it made me confident already. Yeah. And alam ko kasi, it's because my major is English. Siyempre, alam ko na yung, paikot-ikutin mo man ako dyan, for example, that the rules. I can explain. In fact, sabi ko nga sa'yo kanina, yung mga native speakers, it's their native language, but they don't really care about, the rules. Eh, ang mga estudyante, they ask a lot of questions about this. Teacher, why is it on? Why is it in sometimes? They know the language, for example, but the thing is when explaining, for example, the principle or the theory, then sometimes nangangapa sila. They have to really study a book as well to be able to explain. So ito pang isa, Mr. Ron, to be more marketable, kailangan hindi ka lang magtuturo ng general English. There is always a demand for IELTS, okay, CELP, for example, for immigration or immigration application or citizenship. Yung IELTS kasi employment, immigration, university requirement, for example. And then yung mga other proficiency tests na students take, for example, if you're able to teach this, you are more marketable. You always have this, this great opportunity. Kaya
Okay,
kailangan.
Luis.
Mm-hmm.
Panghuli na lang, Luisa.
Yeah.
Can you give your last message sa ating mga kabayan na, huwag silang matakot na kaya nilang gawin ito, that they could go into this industry, this profession, and they're gonna be successful in this way?
Yes. Okay, sa mga kababayan na nandito na sa Canada, especially if your background is in teaching, for example, you had teaching experience back home, as long as you have the bachelor's degree, you take this TESOL certification, and then this will help you to be, more eligible. This will help you to become more confident to do this job. There is this great opportunity, and there is always a demand for this job. So try. I encourage you guys to try this job. It's very rewarding. It's very fulfilling. That's my experience. And for those who are still back home, if you are planning to come here and apply for, student visa, which is, pinakamabilis, when you're already here, you also consider taking this teaching certification course, because when you apply eventually for immigration, then, and you have the passion for teaching, napakadali na makakuha ng trabaho, because there's always a demand for this job. Canada is not the number one destination for international students, for English students most especially. So, hindi ka mawawalan ng trabaho. Basta andun lang yung confidence. Be confident. If you have a good facility with the language, a good command of the language, Hindi ka mawawalan ng trabaho dito as long as you are certified. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much, Louisa. This is
Thank-
very interesting stuff that you
Yes.
that you told us today.
Yeah. So if you have any questions, Mr. Ron, about this industry, you can always message me, and I'm very much willing to answer your questions. Yeah.
All right. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you
Yeah.
for sharing your expertise with us.
Thank you and have a nice day. Take care and
You
God
too.
bless.
You too.
Yeah.
God bless you too. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Bye bye.